On this week's episode of Three Wide in the Middle, we've got our big week of racing at Eldora kicking off with last night's Joker's Jackpot, night number 1, and the twin features. Plus, Ryan Blaney gets the win at Pocono, and who is the favorite heading into this week's Brickyard 400. And we're going to close it out with an Ask Three Wide question, one that I've been kind of saving for a day when I'm by myself, fortunately, again, this week, flying solo. So, all of that and more on this week's show, so stick around. What is up, everybody? Thomas Brendan here. Thank you very much for joining me. And like I said, we're going to be flying solo this week. So last week, quick little housekeeping. So last week, we took the 4th of July week off. Last week, the night before the pod, I got a message from Keith, and he said, "Hey, man, I got my final doctor's appointment is tomorrow. I can't do the pod. I can do it on Friday." I said, "No problem, man." If you remember, he got bit by a brown recluse, almost lost his foot. So next day, that Friday, get up early, getting ready to start the pod, and then I got called out for a job. And so I had to actually leave early. So we didn't do the pod last week because stuff came up again. So this week, getting ready to do the pod, and Keith messaged me, and he's got something going on personally. Can't make it. That's about all I'll say about it. Hope everything's okay with them. But so yeah, he's not here this week, and we're flying solo. So a bunch of stuff to get to, a lot of news topics to kind of go over. I don't really want to dive into the news too much. I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of that stuff, it's just hot take bullshit nonsense. Like I was listening to a couple of other motorsports podcasts this last week, and people getting upset about Bubba Wallace getting fined, and should he or shouldn't he, and so Corey LaJoy and Kyle Busch. It's like, man, I don't feel like talking about it. I got to be honest with you. My opinions are going to be similar to everybody else's, and I just don't want to regurgitate the same BS. I just don't. So we're gonna kind of push off that my thoughts on it, or like I said, I think Bubba Wallace shouldn't have got fined. I think the only reason he got fined is because it literally happened right there on TV, right up front. It gets knocked into the wall. Like that stuff happens all the time. I don't think it was a attack on Bubba as so much as I think it was just attack on that situation, which is stupid. Regardless, I think it's stupid, but whatever. Moving on. The whole Kyle Busch, Corey LaJoy thing. Look, Kyle Busch, dude, had a horrible weekend at Pocono. Corey LaJoy, dude, you make a late move to go 5 wide or 4 wide, whatever the hell it is. Busch blocked you once, late blocked you once. There was no second block. You hooked him. That's all there is to it. Like, end of story. Like, discussion finished. So, moving on. Let's dive into the actual race, because there was a couple of things that really stood out to me at Pocono. Number one, Ty Gibbs, that poor kid, dude, has been just kicking down the door for his first Cup win. I got a feeling it's going to come, and it's going to come soon. He's been really fast at a couple of places, especially recently. If you look at the last few races, Ty Gibbs has been leading laps, been up front. Very, very fast. They're going to put it all together here soon, and when they do, it's going to be scary. It really is. The first one is always the hardest. Okay, it really is. Once you get that first win under your belt, then the next ones will come easier. They just do. It's just how it is. I don't know what the mental block is, but it's there. When I first started out, doing online business and entrepreneurship and stuff like that, the first sale is always the hardest, right? Over that initial barrier, once you can knock that down, then it's like you get this confidence that you know you can do it, and then once you get this confidence, it makes it easier to do it. It's human psychology is weird. It just is. We're such head cases as human beings. It doesn't matter who you are. So Ty Gibbs, when they get a win, and I'm telling you right now, I think it's coming soon. When they get a win, look out, because dude, they're fast. They're really fast. And every time they're looking like one of the cars to beat, something happens, whether Gibbs makes a mistake or there's a mistake on pit road or caught up in a wreck or whatever it is, does not matter. Overall, they've got the speed. They just got to put it all together, which is difficult to do. But as we know, JGR is literally one of the premier teams in all of not just NASCAR, but motorsports. So I expect to see him get a win this year, definitely. But I would expect it to here in the next few weeks. He might even pop one off here at the Brickyard. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Other important things that I kind of took away from the race: Denny Hamlin looked good, to be expected. He's always good at Pocono. That's like one of his tracks that he's just always good at. Alex Bowman, too, looked really good, which was nice to see. Bowman, after the win at Chicago, Bowman kind of got some heat, which I understood, because he came out and it's like, hey, man, answering the haters, y'all can just shove it, whatever. And although I'm all for, giving double birds to the haters, it was kind of like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. You won a shortened race that had a bunch of chaos, all these stuff going on. Like, a win's a win, don't get me wrong, but let's just tap the brakes on that, right? And he goes out this last week and runs in the top 3, and ran really good. I think Alex Bowman is back. And when I say is back, what I mean is I think Alex Bowman is a legit Final 4 contender, top 8 to Final 4 contender. I think making the Final 8 in the playoffs is, if you can do that consistently, you are a championship contender. Because let's be honest, getting from the Final 4 to the Final 8, a lot of that depends on schedule, stuff that's happening, how things are going, right? You can get caught up in an incident. It really does. And then when you get to the Final 4, it's one race. It's one race, and it's Phoenix, right? Like, that's just, so to me, if you can get to that Final 8, I think you are showing to be a, legitimate contender. And if we look at what Bowman had done before his injury, and this is really important, because for those of you who've never been injured before, if you've never had a legitimate injury, you don't understand what it does to you. You don't understand how it affects you in terms of, obviously, physically, but mentally. You don't understand. You have no idea the mental hurdles that you have to get over when you've had a legitimate injury. It's the weirdest thing. And trust me, this is from somebody who has had multiple big injuries, like just stupid, horrible injuries, playing sports. You know what I mean? And I was not a professional athlete, nowhere near. But when you hurt yourself legitimately, it messes up your head. I remember when I blew my knee out going into my junior year of football. And I was good for my little town, right? Like, it's not like I wasn't going anywhere. And I had just had this incredible sophomore season. I had like broken this rushing record and had this awesome year. And, it got like, I can't remember if I got the MVP of the team, or I can't remember what the award was. It might have been Offensive Player of the Year or something like that. I can't remember. But going into my junior year, things are looking up. I'd worked really hard that offseason. I was really looking forward to it. Summer camp, before even first game, I run a pass route over the middle and get hit. And I remember I got a concussion, and I remember getting hit in my knee. The guy who hit me, we hit like leg to leg. And I remember my knee and I remember it was like, oh man. And I kind of limped off the field, and the coaches come over, And they're looking at me and they're like, got your bell rung? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, go sit down. You know, this was back 1998, 99. No, it was 99. Or no, yeah, 1999, because we were going in. Yeah, so 1999, my junior year, because I graduated 01. Yeah, so 1999. And back then, you know, like concussions, yeah, we didn't really know. There was no concussion protocol, not in any sports, right? Especially high school. So coaches like, go sit down and get some water. And I remember I was like limping over to get a drink, and the coach yells at me. He's like, why are you limping? And I said, my knee's killing me. He goes, you didn't get hit in your knee. And I was like, tell that to my knee. And then all of a sudden, it was like it, something popped, and you could literally see my knee in real time. You would have thought it was like a time lapse, but it happened in just a matter of seconds. My knee literally blew up like a balloon. Like, I mean, it just went, I mean, and all of a sudden now my knee is the size of a basketball. Like, no exaggeration. It's huge. And I'm like, oh my God. And I can hardly move it. I can hardly stand on it. I'm like, what the is going on? Coaches come back over, they see that, they're like, oh man, you did something. One coach is like, oh, you just got a bad bruise. It's going to change all these different colors, but you'll be fine in a few days. Dude, I hobbled on that thing the rest of the year, the rest of the season. And it was literally, I mean, we had a trainer, they would run tape. I would have this tape that covered half my leg. We were pushing my kneecap over, taping it into place. Like, no exaggeration. I played every game my junior year with a blown out ACL. Didn't even know it. Trying to be the tough guy, trying to, you know, for what? For high school football. And then off season, I have 2 knee surgeries. I try to come back from my senior year. And when I would try to run and cut, it's the weirdest thing. You don't understand. It's the weirdest thing. My mind is saying, you know, like things that I used to be able to do and I could do without thinking. Now I'm trying to think, and it's like cut, and my legs won't respond. My body won't listen. It's weird. It was so weird. And I remember, like, halfway through the season, I told the coach, I said, I can't play no more. I'm like, my body won't listen to my head. I said, I can't do it. You know, I'm broken. I'm done. And that was how my you know, high school sports career ended. If you're an Alex Bowman and you break your back, right? Like, you get a concussion, you break your back, doing stuff in a race car, that's going to be in the back of your mind for a while. I don't care who you are, it's going to be in the back of your mind. It just is. And when you are talking about a sport where these guys are separated by hundredths of a second, the slightest hesitation, right? Milliseconds of hesitation can cost you huge. And when you watch Alex Bowman now compared to when he was running last year, you could see the difference in the driver. He's more confident. He's more assured. It's like it's taken him a while, which is only to be expected. You go out, break your back in a race car, and then tell me how eager you are to hop back in and go 200 miles an hour. It's only natural. When you look at what Bowman had done before the injury and then where he's at now this year, I would say he's back on par to where he was. 2021, you know, 2019, Bowman gets a win. I think 2019 was his first, or maybe it was 2018, I think was his first full season in Cup. Because it must have been 2018, right? Because Junior retired in 17. So yeah, 2018, Bowman takes over full year, has a couple top 5s. I think he has 10 top 10s. I think he even got a pole that first year. And he had like an average finish of, let me see here, 17th. 2019, gets a win, 7 top 5s, 12 top 10s, average finish of 14.3. 2020, finished 6th in the points. We obviously know how how much of a crazy year 2020 was. Got a win, 6 top 5s, 15 top 10s, led 440 laps. 2021 got 4 wins. 2022 gets hurt. And if you remember in 2022, he had got a win, was leading the points when he got hurt. I mean, was leading the points. So, obviously a tough year. 2023, he never seemed to get that, what he had in 2022 before he got hurt. Like, he was just off the whole year. He just seemed to be off. And finally, this year, he's looking like he was before he got hurt. If you look at what his average start was and his average finish before the injury, and then you look at where he's at now, his average start is 14th, his average finish is 13th. He's got a win now. He's got 6 top 5s, 12 top 10s. You can see that, hey, man, he's getting it back to where he was. All right, now he doesn't have the laps led that he had before, but still, you only need to lead 1 lap, and that's the last lap. That's it. So I hear people talk about laps led. Ty Gibbs. How many laps led does Ty Gibbs have this year? How many wins does he have? You know what I mean? Like, you got to close the deal. That's all that matters, is wins. Laps led it's like being close. Being close only counts in horseshoes and darts. That's it, man. It matters not in any other sport. So I think Alex Bowman getting that win, I think that was huge. You can already tell he has got a new renewed confidence, which he should. The mental aspect is huge in any sport, especially something like racing. Especially because you have to have confidence. You have to. Not only in your ability, but in the car, in those around you. And when things are going good, that confidence it's there. And man, it's amazing the stuff you can do. Amazing. And right now, these guys are looking like they're finally on the right track and, heading for good things. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, we got a few more weeks before we get to the playoffs, but yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Bowman on a podium finish after his win at Chicago. Denny Hamlin, we already know how good he is, and I mean, he's one of the championship favorites right now, so I don't need to give him any more flowers than he's already got. And then Blaney. So Blaney got his 2nd win on the season. Hats off to him. If you look at the multi-winners this year, Larson's got 3 wins, Hamlin's got 3 wins, Byron's got 3 wins, Bell's got 3 wins, right? So you got 4 drivers with 3 wins. Then you've got this whole list of drivers with 1 win. Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Keselowski, Bowman, Logano, Suarez, Cindric. There's only 1 driver with multiple wins outside of those 4 I mentioned, and that's Ryan Blaney. And Blaney technically, Blaney should have 3 wins, right? He doesn't run out of fuel a lap short of Gateway. He's got 3 wins. So Blaney, once again, showing himself to really be right there on par with those top guys. To me, the final 4 favorites as of right now, and that's all we have to go on is where we're at for the year, is Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Bell. I still think those are the 4. But Blaney, right there. He is right there. And I do think if Blaney can make the final 4, if he can get to that championship race at Phoenix, I think he has to be considered one of the favorites, if not the favorite. He does. Penske's got those tracks figured out, and Blaney definitely has got that track figured out. All he's got to do is make that final 4. He makes that final 4. I mean, damn, dude, it's like he's the favorite to win the championship. So, hats off Ryan Blaney. Awesome win this week, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens this coming week. So we've got Indianapolis this weekend, and obviously we've got the big sprint car race at Eldora Kings Royal, and which got underway last night. So let's dive into our dirt track recap right now. There was a lot of stuff happening. First off, last weekend, we didn't get a chance to talk about it because obviously last week we weren't here, but we had the Mid-American Midget Week going on. Dason Pursley came out on fire. Pursley got 3 wins in a row. If you remember, he won the Indiana Midget Week finale at Kokomo, then kicked off Mid-America Midget Week with the win at Red Dirt and Mitchell County Fairgrounds. Justin Grant got his first win of the season at Jefferson County, and then Ryan Timms got the win at Jefferson County the last night of the Mid-America Midget Week. Now, USAC Midgets are off until September 1st, which is nuts. Keith and I have talked about these massive gaps that USAC's got. If you are looking for midget racing, don't worry. The Extreme Outlaws will be there to pick up the slack as they're going to be running with the Power Eye. They got what they call their Extreme Outlaw Power Eye Challenge Series. They got Spoon River coming up the 19th and 20th. Then they've got an Outlaw Extreme Midget Showdown at Arrowhead and Tulsa. Then they'll be with the Outlaw Sprint Cars. They've got the Ironman 55 at Peevely. Then they've got their Outlaw, what they're calling the Extreme Outlaw Appalachian Midget Week. They'll be all through Pennsylvania. Got Action Track, Linda's, Path Valley, Clyde Martin. So Extreme Outlaws will be picking up the slack as the USAC Midgets will be off for a while. But last night was night number 1 of the... What the heck I want to make sure I get the name right. Joker, was it the Joker's Jackpot? Is that what it is? I'm sorry. Double Down Duels. Last night was the Double Down Duels. Tonight is the Joker's Jackpot. 100,000 to win. If you look at the schedule, I love what High Limit did. I know people are hating on High Limit and them starting this series and splitting it up and all this stuff like this. I love it the way that they did it because it utilizes what the Outlaws have in terms of their mainstays, their crown jewels, their big events. And then it also brings the High Limit racing in with their own flair, what they want to do, what they think is better, and all that stuff like that. So when you look at High Limit schedule and you overlay that with the Outlaws, the biggest shows, the biggest events, we're getting to see the best drivers. High Limit did it right, in my opinion. They're not stupid. They didn't say, hey, look, we want to overtake the Outlaws. So when the Outlaws are running their Knoxville Nationals, well, we're going to be running our own thing, right? No, they didn't do that. They said, hey, look, man, Kings Royal, Knoxville Nationals, the National Open, Summer Nationals, those are pretty big events. So why don't we not run, and then we can go run with the Outlaws, right? Let's go try to take their money. Sort of a little rivalry. We can compete against them. It's incredible. And last night, we got to see High Limit and the Outlaws on the track together. We knew that the Outlaw drivers were probably going to be running these 2 nights leading up to the Kings Royal. It only makes sense. Hats off to Tony Stewart embracing both series, saying, hey, look, man, let's have both parties win on this. We still got the Kings Royal. That's an Outlaw event. We'll do the night before. But hey, instead of doing the joust and all this other crap, why don't we have our High Limit? We've got these Double Down Duels. We've got this Joker's Jackpot. And let's just make it a whole week of racing. And that's what they did. And last night, it got started off with a bang. If you did not watch the racing last night, you missed out. I really recommend going and watching the replay of just if you can't watch all of it, just watch the 2 features, the Double Down Duels. They were incredible. First up, you had an incredible battle in the first feature with Logan Schuchart, Justin Peck, Brad Sweet, and then Donnie Schatz came into the fold too, which was absolutely amazing. Schatz, that guy, he just like seems to come from nowhere. He'll be running like 10th, and then all of a sudden it's like, dude, where'd Donnie shots come from? Like all of a sudden he's just there. It's incredible. But they had a 4-car battle going on for the lead, which was just amazing to watch. It really was. Like I said, Schuchart got the win. Schatz ended up grabbing second there right at the end. Schatz started 8th, finished second. Brad Sweet puts it on the podium. And then hats off Justin Peck. Definitely got a good finish for him as well. And then Anthony Macri rounding out the top 5. Rounding out your top 10 was Caleb Henry, Carson Macedo. Big shout out Carson Macedo. Macedo moved up 14 spots. He started 21st, finished 7th, which should definitely help him points-wise. Garrett Williamson, who started on the pole of the feature, he dropped back to 8th. Hunter Schoenberg, also big mover, went from 22nd to 9th. And then Danny Sams the third, rounding out your top 10. So big names who did not have great finishes. Corey Day finished 23rd in that first feature. Tanner Thorson finished 16th. Rico Abreu, I always say his name wrong. Rico was actually running pretty good and then got a flat tire, had to come in and change it. He ended up finishing 14th. And then the nerd assassin, Buddy Kofoid, started 5th and then finished 13th. He had some tough luck as well in the feature. So interesting to see how those guys will line up tonight. Now, feature number 2, or Group B, I should say, Giovanni Scelzi put down an absolute clinic. This race just went green to checkered. Scelzi jumped out to a big lead. At one point, I want to say it was almost 5 seconds. Insane. Larson moved up. I think he gained 4 or 5 spots. He did cut into the lead there at the end. Scelzi was obviously dealing with lap traffic, but regardless, Gio Scelzi gets the win. Larson finishes second. Tyler Courtney, Sunshine rounding out the podium. Then you had David Gravel in 4th, Spencer Baston in 5th. Then your top 10, McFadden, Marks, Cy Lynch, Sheldon Hodenshield, and Corey Eliason. Some other notable names, I should say, in the second feature. Brian Brown Brown started 3rd or 4th. He finished 14th. Not sure what happened there with him. Parker Price Miller, he dropped back a little bit too. Ryan Timms, shout out Timms. He started last. He started 24th and moved up to 12th. That is a feat. Really a feat. So yeah, some guys had some pretty tough nights, others with some really good nights. Now, every point that you earned last night is going to determine where you start tonight. Okay, so what they're doing is it's similar to the Eldora Million, the way that they had done that. If you remember, they had these heat races, and then basically the top 6, I think there were 6 heat races, then they filled out the rest with everybody else, and then the winners of those heat races, then they're determining their starts, all stuff like this. So they've got this whole format worked out for tonight. Top 6 in points, they will start on the pole of the heat races tonight. Those heat races will determine your starting position in the feature, the consies and all that stuff like that. Tonight, 100,000 to win. So really, really cool that Eldora's doing this with High Limit, obviously leading up to the King's Royal, which will be Friday night. You got the night before, and then Saturday night, the King's Royal. Expect to see everybody with High Limit run the King's Royal. They're obviously not going to leave before the $175,000 payday. So good racing so far. I'm going to tell you right now, my prediction for tonight, I'm going to, let's write this. Let's actually write this down so we've got this. Because I'm going to make up some predictions for tonight and tomorrow, or not, tonight and Saturday night. because I do think I've got some thoughts on who I think's going to win. So hold on, I should have been more prepared with this. All right, so King's Royal or Joker's Jackpot tonight. I'm going to say I'll pick the top 3. Man, Logan Schuchart looked really good last night. He looked really good. I don't know what it is about that guy in Eldora. I mean, we saw it last year at the Eldora Million, right? Like, I mean, it's not like Schuchart had been lighting the world on fire, and then all of a sudden comes out and wins the Eldora Million. I would not be shocked to see Logan Schuchart win again, but I'm not going to pick Schuchart. I'm going to go, I think a high limit guy is going to win there. Even though 2 Outlaws won last night, I think a high limit driver is going to win the Joker's Jackpot. Let's go with, I'm going to go with, this is kind of a chalky pick, but whatever. I'm going to go with Sweet, Sunshine, and Larson. I think those are the podium for the Joker's Jackpot tonight. King's Royal, just by the way it's looking right now, I'm going to go with, I actually think Gio Scelzi is going to win the King's Royal. I know that's crazy, but I think Gio Scelzi is going to win the King's Royal. That's my pick. And then we'll go with shots, and then I think let's go with Sheldon hasn't been running good there. It seems like he seems really up and down at Eldora. So my pick for the Joker's Jackpot tonight, we're gonna go with, for our podium, Sweet, Sunshine, and Larson. King's Royal, we're gonna go with Scelzi, Shots, Gravel. So it'll be fun. Good racing, a lot of good racing this weekend, and I definitely looking forward to it. Now on to Indy. So thank the Lord, the Brickyard is back. No longer do we have that stupid road course on the schedule. Brickyard 400 is back. Cannot wait. And we've got a whole lot of racing this weekend at the Brickyard. So trucks. So hold on. I want to make sure I got this correct, because the trucks are at IRP, but they're also, who else is at IRP? Oh, okay. So ARCA and the trucks are at IRP this week. Xfinity and Cup are at Indy. Look for, you know who I think is going to win Indy? So I'm going to do my NASCAR pick'em right now, because, well, you know what? Actually, let's pull up the odds, because that'll give us an idea as to who is favored for the Brickyard 400. So it looks like Hamlin is the favorite, followed by Larson, Blaney, and Keselowski. I would not have expected Brad Keselowski to be one of the 4 favorites for the Brickyard 400. That's kind of surprising to me. I would say this, a good bet would be Bowman at plus 3,400 for an outright winner. I've been looking at the live betting during the race. If you've noticed, there's actually live odds. I think those are the best. Those are the best odds that you can get. Because remember, I've talked about this before. You're looking for value when you're doing these bets. And a lot of the value is sucked out before qualifying. Now, after they qualify and you actually can see what somebody's capable of, I actually look for those good drivers, those who are fast but are starting bad. There's a lot of times where you could get a decent driver who you think is going to have a good shot at winning or at least a good finish, and you can get better odds on them because they might have a bad qualifying run or they don't look good in practice or whatever it is. Those good teams are going to figure it out. Even they might not start off great, but they'll figure it out. So, looking at the odds right now, Hamlin, Larson, like those guys, yeah, I kind of expect them to do good. They always do. I'm going to take Larson to win it. That's not my NASCAR pick'em pick because obviously I can't pick Larson. I've already picked him this season, but I think Larson's going to win it. Hamlin's going to be there as well. I actually think Blaney's going to be there as well too. Those top three that they've got as favors, that's who, if I had to power rank the three drivers that I think are going to be the three best this weekend at Indy, it would be Hamlin, Larson, and Blaney. Blaney just won Pocono. Pocono is going to be similar to Indy. It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be doing any shifting at Indy because of the way that those corners are. If you look at Pocono, they were downshifting. I think it was into one, and then I think they stayed in the same gear all the way back around. I don't think they would upshift again until like the front stretch or something. So, be interesting to see if they're going to be shifting this week at Indy. Hopefully not. I hate that shifting crap. It sucks, dude. I don't like it. But regardless, yeah, I think Larson's going to get the win at Indy. A big week for Kyle Larson this week. I'm calling it right now. He's going to get the win at Indy, and he's going to be up front at the Joker and the Kings Royal. I wonder if Larson's going to run the Kings Royal. You think he would run Kings Royal, but it is the night before the Brickyard 400. That'll be early. That'll be interesting to see. I hope he runs the Kings Royal. I actually think we need more of these guys bouncing back and forth between dirt and asphalt. I would love to see Christopher Bell back in a sprint car. I just would love to see it. Would really, really be a good thing to have. So yeah, that's my picks for this weekend's upcoming racing action, I should say. All right, you guys. So to wrap up today's show, I wanted to do a couple of these Ask 3 Wide questions because these are, I've gotten these before. We got these questions actually a while ago, and I've just been kind of sitting on them for days like today where I'm by myself and, can go on longer rants, ramble on like I normally do. It's not as easy for me to do that when Keith is here. That's one of the best things about Keith is keep my rambling in check. But this week, we're leading up to a lot of stuff, and it's like, hey, I'll do these 3 wide questions that we've had. So a couple of them, the 2 that I'm going to answer today, we've had for a while. Now, this first one from JC, and if I pull this email up real quick, so he sent, man, this, wow. So this was almost 2 months ago. Yeah, this was a while ago. And he's referring to an episode where I talked about this before. So he said this: Tommy, Keith, love the show. Tommy, I've heard you talk about cost caps in racing and how the RTA is eventually going to have a cost cap in NASCAR. I know they do this in F1, but could you elaborate on what you think this would look like if they're going to do this, and if so, when? Thanks, love the show, JC. So, JC, when I talked about a cost cap in NASCAR, the reason why I think this is something that's going to happen is because NASCAR seems to be pushing that. So this last week, Denny Hamlin did an interview with Kenny Wallace, the Kenny Conversation, I think is what he calls it, on his YouTube channel. I have not watched the entire interview, but I did watch the clip where Hamlin talks about the offers that the charter negotiate, what they're getting from NASCAR for these charter negotiations. According to Denny Hamlin, every offer that they get from NASCAR is worse than the previous offer. So imagine me and you are making a deal and I say, hey man, I'll buy that off you for $100. And you're like, no, I want 200. And I say 95. And you're like, no, 200. I go 90. You're like, no, man, 200. And I go 75. And you're like, no, man, I want $200. And I go 50. So that's essentially what NASCAR's doing to the RTA. The RTA is like, hey, man, we want XYZ. And NASCAR's like, nope, not giving it to you. Here's what we'll give you. We'll give you ABC. You're like, no. We need you to cover our costs. We want a bigger piece of the pie. And we want these charters invoked, forever. We want these to become franchises. NASCAR says, nope, we're going to give you less money, no charter agreements, and take it or leave it. And the teams are like, no, man. Hey, look, we'll even give you these rights. We'll give you these rights so you can go out and you can negotiate for sponsorships on our behalf so that way it helps the whole, right? Let's lock arms. Let's do this together. But we need you to cover our costs. As Denny Hamlin says, and I 100% agree with him, no business that is run efficiently, right? Run efficiently, smartly, correctly, and is successful should be operating at a loss. We're not asking to become millionaires. We don't want to be in a hole. Let's put on the show together. Let's do this. But man, we got to cover these costs. And we want these charters to last. We want that way the team has something of value moving forward that we can count on. And NASCAR turns around and says, no, we'll take those rights, but no, we're not doing the charters. And in fact, we're going to cut your percentage by 5%. Right? Like that's what NASCAR's doing. Every time the RTA is saying, hey man, this is what we're looking for. This is what we want. We'll give you this. NASCAR is basically saying, okay, we'll take that, but we're not giving you anything that you've asked for. That's what's going on. The RTA essentially started, for a quick little history on this, the RTA essentially started because back, if I'm remembering correctly, and I had to go back and do research on this because remember, I had kind of gone away from NASCAR and then got back into it over these last few years. And this had happened while I was away, not really following it. But the costs were just getting outrageous. And not only were the costs getting outrageous, but you saw sponsorships really starting to fall off. And you saw the salaries dropping, jobs were going away. Like NASCAR was really starting to hit some hard times. If you look back, late 90s, early 2000s, every team had fully funded cars. It wasn't like it is today where even the best teams, right? The top teams, they've got multiple sponsors throughout the year. I mean, it used to be, no, Chase Elliott, you are in the number 9 Napa Chevrolet. Like that's what Chase, late 90s, early 2000s, that's what Chase Elliott drove. Dale Earnhardt was in the number 3 GM Goodwrench Chevrolet. Dale Earnhardt Jr., number 8, Budweiser Chevrolet. Michael Waltrip, number 15, Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet. Mark Martin, number 6, Valvoline Ford, right? Like that's what you were in. Jeff Burton, Exide Batteries. Ricky Rudd, Tide. You know what I mean? Like that's Denny Hamlin, FedEx, Del Jarrett, UPS, right? That's what they drove. Those cars were funded. If they had a different paint scheme on them, it was a one-off. It was for the All-Star or the Coke 600 or the Firecracker 400 at Daytona. It wasn't every other week you were looking at different wraps and paint schemes. No. Those sponsors, they were for the year, man. The year. That is not the case no more. And it has dropped off hard. And it started dropping off, mid 2010s. It was like 15, 16, 17. And the teams were basically going back to NASCAR, to Jim Francis, saying, hey, look, man, these costs have gotten just insane. We need a little help. Help us with our hard cards or help us with this. And Jim Francis is like, no, not doing it. You guys signed your agreement and you're going to ride this thing out. Which has now made the teams look at this upcoming agreement and say, look, man, we got to get this right. Because if we're off on something, we can't come back and go to Jim France. We can't come back and come to NASCAR and say, hey, look, man, we need some help with this. Will you help us? Because they're not going to help us. So we better make sure that we dot every I and cross every T. And so that's why we find NASCAR and the RTA right now in this stalemate. Because of this, and when you're talking about, money and what's coming in and what the teams want and what NASCAR wants and what the tracks want and all this stuff, I think we're going to see some form of cost cap. I don't know what that'll look like, though. I have no idea. Because when you talk about a cost cap in NASCAR, there's a lot that could be covered under that. So if you look at like the F1 cost cap, for example, there are things that fall under the cost cap, and then there are things that don't. When you start looking at, R&D improvements to the cars, wind tunnel time, what are they, the CFD testing, all that type of stuff, that all falls under cost cap. And they only are allotted a certain amount of time based on where they're at in terms of their points. Could NASCAR do something similar to that? They could. I think right now, one of the reasons why costs have gotten so high in NASCAR is because you have these single source suppliers. Anytime you have a single source supplier, it's like a no bid contract. It's like, well, this is the only place you can get it, so you've got to pay what you've got to pay. When you don't have competition, there's no incentive for innovation. There's no incentive to try and reduce costs. If you had multiple people who were manufacturing, let's say, the transaxles, the gearboxes, right? Well, then you might be able to find that from another supplier at a cheaper price. But you can only get that from one place now. And so I understand why they do that, but also they need to understand that drives up costs. That doesn't reduce costs. That's the problem. I know this for a fact because I own two businesses. When you are competing with others, cost is always an issue. I try to, all day, every day, minimize my costs while maximizing my profits and still offering my customers the best quality service at the lowest possible cost. That is essentially the heartbeat of a free market, right? Like that's what a free market is supposed to offer the consumer. The highest quality product at the lowest possible price. That's the way that it works. And if you look around the world and you look at situations where there is typically where there are examples of a free market, that's what you're getting. You're getting what that company can produce, the best possible product that they can produce at the lowest possible price to the consumer that allows that company to still clear their costs, right? Cover their costs and make a profit. That's incentive. When I am, and I'll give you guys a great example of this. When I am doing a job for an insurance company, right? The cost is the cost. That's it. I am charging the most amount of money that I possibly can for the glass that the insurance company will pay. I'm charging them the most amount of labor that they will pay. Whether or not I do it doesn't matter because that's what they'll pay. If the list price on the windshield is $500 and the labor it says is 3.5 hours at $45 an hour, you better believe I'm charging that full price on that windshield and I'm charging all that labor because that's what the insurance will pay. You take that same job and you make it a private customer, like a citizen, a normal person who's just paying out of pocket, those prices are going to be dramatically different. Dramatically different because that customer can go to me or the glass shop down the street or the guy in the town next over, right? Like that's what happens. So when you have single source suppliers, you lose that. And you listen to these guys talk now, they're like, dude, these cars are more expensive than ever. The parts are more expensive. We can't do anything in-house. So it's trade-offs. Because also you look at the car, you're like, look, we used to be able to build a car for $150,000. Now it's $400,000. But this car can run at every track. Where before you had a short track car, you had a speedway car, you had a road course car. So it was different, obviously. But still, when you talk about the costs, you know, I think these teams are going to have to agree to a cost cap. I do. What that's going to look like, JC, I don't know. But I do think we'll see one. And if you start looking at how F1 does it, and keep in mind the money in F1 is so much more than NASCAR. The F1 model and how they make money is so far beyond NASCAR. NASCAR, it is so complicated because you got track owners who own this real estate and they own these tracks, and NASCAR owns these tracks, and NASCAR puts on the event and they're the sanctioning body, and then you've got the drivers and the teams own the cars and they got contracts with it is so convoluted. It is. And unless NASCAR can get past this mentality, this dictatorship mentality where it's like, hey, look, it's our way or the highway, I don't know what's going to happen, whether or not they're going to get an agreement done. If they don't, it's going to be sad. It's going to be sad because there's no one's going to step up out there and be like, oh yeah, we'll fill the void of those teams. Could you imagine what will happen if they don't have a charter agreement next year? Guess what? You're going to see the bigger teams. They're going to run the races that pay the most money. That race at Loudon, New Hampshire, right? That pays, X amount to win. We're not going to go to that. We're not going to go to that. The Clash, Mexico City, Canada, right? Wherever they're going to do it. Bowman Gray, we're not going to run that. Who cares? That's stupid. We're not going to go run that. We won't do that. Right? So you start getting into this point where now it's like, hey man, we're going to be running these pick and choose schedules. Not only that, then what happens if you got a Kyle Larson, you got a Christopher Bell, you've got these guys who run dirt also. Now Larson's like, well, dude, why would I care about missing the Coke 600 next year again? We're not running for points. We don't have an agreement. What do I care? You know what I mean? It becomes very, very muddled. I don't know if NASCAR's thought this strong arm maneuver through. I really don't know if they have or not, because if they try to go full on just mafioso, like take it or leave it, these teams might just say, all right, screw you. And then what happens? I don't know, man. I don't know. I do think, JC, that if this agreement goes through, one of the things that is going to have to be settled on is a cost cap. I do think that's going to be in place because NASCAR wants that. And the teams are going to have to capitulate. And I think if NASCAR says, hey, we're going to cover your costs, but for us to cover your costs, you've got to monitor what you're spending. So we're going to invoke a cost cap. I could see that happening. If it does, though, and what it'll look like, I don't know. I don't. That'll be interesting to see. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah. All right. Last question. So I've been asked this question before. I actually kind of went on a rant about this during one of my live streams a few nights ago. But it's one of those topics that this actually. So hold on. Let me pull up the email. Let me read it real quick. All right. So this one was actually from just a couple weeks ago from a guy, Eddie. So Eddie writes this. Hey, Tommy, Keith, I wanted to write you and ask you kind of an off-topic question for the Ask 3Y. Tommy, I've heard you talk about owning businesses, and I've heard you talk about being in the online business space for quite a few years, and I wondered what you did in terms of mentorship and education. I've seen a lot of stuff on people like Grant Cardone, Dan Locke. He's basically kind of listing off the who's of gurus here. Tony Robbins has a business thing, and I've also seen Ty Lopez. I haven't bought any of these guys' courses yet because I think they're pricey. And so I wanted to ask you your thoughts on the online mentors, who's good, whether or not it's worth it, and how you finally broke through in business. Thanks for the info, Ed. Okay, so all right. So my thoughts on this, and for those of you guys who don't want to hear stuff on business, you can end the show. You could stop right now, okay? Because this is going to be like, yeah. If you're just here for the racing talk, have a good day. We'll see you next week. But yeah, because this topic grinds my gears, man. It does. It really, really does. So, first of all, a little backstory here. Back in 2011, I met my wife. Obviously, at the time, she was my girlfriend, but I met my wife. A year after we met, she was pregnant. She was pregnant with our son. I was working nights at the casino. So at that point, it was like, look, I've got to, I gotta get either a second income. Eventually, I would like to not work at the casino. I don't want to be working nights at a casino the rest of my life now that I've got a family and all this stuff like this. So I started looking at online businesses, ways to make money. The first thing that I got into was sports betting, actually. I came across these sports betting guys. I had heard them back on the radio. They would make these free picks. You call this number, they give you the free picks. The reason they do that is because if you win, they want you to sign up for their service. I got into their service and started winning. Now, I promise this is all going to make sense while I'm telling you this story. I essentially got lucky. So I had turned, their service was like $100 or $200 a month. Okay. And every day they would text me these picks to make, these bets to make. Now, back then, offshore gambling sites were everywhere, and you could do it like it was not a big deal. Like you could sign up with an offshore account, no problem. It was no big deal. Now it's not as easy as it used to be, especially with all of these places, all these states now legalizing gambling. But anyway, so back then I just signed up with this offshore account. I had put in like $100 or $200, and within a couple of months, I had turned that $200 into like $4,000, $5,000. Like it was insane. The winning streak that we were on was nuts. Essentially, what had happened is I was in what was basically a boiler room scam. Here's how a boiler room scam works. Boiler room scams happened back in the day with the stock market. So you've got a broker. He calls 100 clients, tells 50 of those clients to buy stock A, tells 50 clients to sell stock A. At the end of the day, week, month, whatever it is, 50 of those one of those groups is going to be happy because they're going to have made money. Then you take those 50 people and you do it again. So now you tell them, "Hey, look, man, we just hit on Apple, right? We just got this massive return on Apple. So now I've got another one for you. We're going to take that money out of Apple and we're going to go to Google." And he's going to tell 50 people, he's going to tell those 50 people, right? He's going to break it up again. Now he's going to tell 25 of them to buy Google and 25 of them to sell Google. At the end of that next trade, he's going to have 25 people who think that he's the Jesus Christ coming in. That is the way that it works, you guys. If you can do that with people, I'm telling you right now, it does not take much to influence human beings. It doesn't. And money is a massive driver. And if you can make money for people and do it without them having to do anything, all I'm doing is going online and making some wagers, right? Or you're just buying some stock or selling stock in a brokerage account. Dude, you're going to think that person walks on water. I essentially had fallen into one of these scams and just happened to be on the right side like for like 3 months, and had turned a couple $100 into like $5,000. So what happened was, I get a call one day, and this guy, we'll call him Ted. Ted calls me, and this is the guy who I've been dealing with, and he says, "Hey, Tommy, I got a line on 5 games. These 5 games are absolute hits." He goes, "But if you want in on them," he goes, "these are just for special clients. If you want in on them, it's $500 for the information." Now, folks, this dude had turned $200 into like $5,000. For me, $500, I'm like, sold. Where do I send the money? So I send him the $500, and he says, "Hey, look, man, I'm going to call you in about an hour with those picks." I said, "Okay, no problem." So I send him the money. I get a call back, and he tells me, "All right, here's the 5 picks that you're going to make." And so I make those 5 picks. Okay. I write them all down, get online with my broker, or not broker, but the betting offshore account, make the bets. And I bet big on them too, man. Like, I was betting a few $100s. I had about $5,000, and my units at the time was like 250. And so I'm betting, a couple units per game. So at the time, I think I had like $2,000 wagered, 1,500, $2,000 wagered on those, like total on those 5 games. And when I made those bets, like probably like 30, 40 minutes after I had talked to him on the phone and made those bets, I got a text from him. And the text told me to bet the opposite of what he had just told me personally on the phone. And I remember when I saw that, because keep in mind, my bets were already made. Like the game was just getting ready to start. And I remember seeing that, and I remember being like, "That's odd. That's weird. Why did I get a text and it's the opposite?" And so I'm thinking like, okay, well, maybe that's a mistake. Because that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, that must be a mistake. They must have just made a mistake. It must be a typo. Something's wrong. He was just texting me, and he just literally like got it backwards, right? Like, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm telling myself. I'm telling myself that because I don't want to believe it. I'm being completely honest. I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe that there's something fishy about this, because like I said, man, I had just turned a couple $100 into a few grand doing nothing. Now, the next day, I had lost 3 out of those 5 games. Had I followed what the text said, I would have actually made money, but I lost money. So at the time, I'm thinking, well, no big deal. I'm still way up. And, overall, I lost, I think I had lost like $1,000, right? The 500 that I had sent him. And then, after those 2 losses, which I also think was like $500 total, it was like I was down like $1,000. A few days later, same scenario. He hits me up again, got this information. And so now I'm a little suspicious, right? I don't want to believe it's a fake, but I'm very suspicious of it. So I send him the money, because I'm like, I'm going to pay $500 to figure this out, because that's the way I was looking at it. And when I made the bets this time, I did not bet very much. I only bet like $75, $50 on him. No shit, same thing happened again, where he calls me, he tells me what bets to make, and I get a text like an hour later. It's the opposite of everything he told me. This time, what he had told me when I talked to him, not the text, we lost all 5 games. I paid $500 to lose 5 games. And that next day, he calls me, and he's excited. He's happy. He's like, "Dude, we went 5-0 last night." I said, "No, we didn't. We went 0-5. I said, "You charged me $500 for these quote unquote special picks. I go, you called me, you gave me those picks. I go, and then you texted me the opposite picks an hour later. I said, this is a scam. I said, you're running a boiler room scam. And he just was like, and I just click. Done. Like, don't ever call me again. Done. Boom. Blocked his number. Done. That was it. Now, I was still up a couple $1,000, overall, but I obviously took a hit after those losses. But after that, everything that I looked at online now I always looked at it with a very skewed perspective. I always looked at it, constantly thinking, is this a scam? How am I getting scammed? How are they working me over, right? What are they trying to sell me that they're not telling me? That was how I always viewed stuff. And it was because of that. Now, after that, I had started doing some sports betting of my own because I was like, well, dude, I think I can learn how to do this myself. And so I deep dove into it, got into that, started doing it, actually made money, but shortly after I started doing it for myself, that was when all that, if you remember all the stuff that happened with the offshore poker sites and the gambling sites, all that stuff. Remember, there was like a really big issue with people getting their money and all stuff like that. So when all of that started happening, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. I don't want my money tied up in an offshore account somewhere. This is technically, it's supposed to be illegal. They're just finding loopholes for this to work, and I don't want to be a part of this. So I basically got out. And I started looking at online business. I got into trading, online trading, found some mentors and teachers in that were bullshit artists, basically scam artists. And I finally came across somebody, that I had started to actually learn stuff from. And I learned from them in trading. And then he did this course on business, on how to start an online business. And I took that course and actually learned quite a bit on direct response marketing, online marketing, and sales and stuff like that. But it was basically just kind of like a Kickstarter program. Hey, this is how you find a product. This is how you do this. And once I had gone through that program, that's when I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start an online business. I can do this. And I dove headfirst into the deep end with all of those gurus, all of those so-called experts, the Grant Cardones, the Frank Kerns, the Dan Locks, the Ty Lopez's, the Dan Kennedys, the Russell Brunsons, you name it, I've gone through something of theirs. Whether it be a training program, a course, a series, lectures, live events, I've gone through them. And I can tell you the vast majority of them are bullshit. They are 100% bullshit. Don't fall for this crap, man. Most of it is crap. They are not selling you anything tangible. I told you all of that stuff because I want you to understand that even though I had gotten scammed in gambling on stuff online, right, and had gone through other stuff that I found out were scams, when I started doing, man, they are good at hooking you. But actually look at what they show. They're online, they're free they are tremendous marketers. Grant Cardone, Dan Locke, Ty Lopez, like those, Andrew Tate, they are incredible marketers. When it comes to actually teaching you stuff and their quote unquote systems and how to get rich, it's bullshit. It's such bullshit, man. There's no other way to put it. It is crap, garbage, teaches you nothing. They are selling you a dream. That is what they're selling you. They are selling you a dream. Because I remember I worked my ass off and I tried their methods. Their methods don't work. Do you know when I finally started getting successful? When I finally started getting successful online and actually started making money and grew a successful business online, and it's what I do now in my glass business as well, when I stopped doing what they said to do. When I did the opposite of what they talk about, I became successful. That shit doesn't work because they're selling you a dream. That stuff is designed specifically for a certain type of audience, and that audience was me. And I don't know whether or not it's you, but if you fall under this category, you're going to fall for this stuff hook, line, and sinker, man, because it preys on people who are desperate, people that want to succeed. They want to work. They want to put in the effort. They want to get better. They want to actually make something of their lives. They don't want to just work their ass off at a 9 to 5, which, I mean, my God, who works a 9 to 5 anymore? That shit don't exist neither, right? They don't want to work for somebody else, kill themselves, and then 30 years later, they've got some BS 401k retirement that they're not going to be able to live long off of. They're going to have to go get a job greeting at Walmart or, collecting grocery carts at the local, Piggly Wiggly or whatever you know what I mean? Like they're going to have some half-ass bullshit job when they get to retirement because they're not going to be able to survive. Right? Like people don't want that. They want to actually make something themselves. And you see those videos and you see that stuff and you're like, dude, I can do that. I can make money. I've got a skill. I can teach people. Because that's what, dude, you go in there. I remember I did one program. They taught me how to create training courses and market and sell training courses. I had finished I had done trading. I was trading the Forex markets. I had gone through this program, was actually making money trading. Now I had a small account. My account was only a few $1,000s, but I was averaging about, 2 to 3% return a month. And when I say return a month, I mean return on my account. So if I had a $3,000 account, I was getting 2 to 3% return on that account each month. I was very conservative with my strategies. Like I was not out there, trying to hit home runs and stuff like that because that's stupid. I don't want to lose money. I want to make money. I don't want to gamble it. Okay. I spent more than a decade in the gambling industry. I wasn't trying to do that in the financial markets. And so I was trying to grow my account. And one of the ways that I could grow my account, according to these gurus, these coaches, these mentors, was I could teach other people how to trade. And so I had gone out and created training courses and I was teaching people what I had learned and how to do it. Well, I actually had some real world experience, but keep in mind, it wasn't that much. And not only that, why pay me $1,000 for a training course or even $500 for a training course when you can go to the guy who taught me, right? You can go to the guy and pay him. You know what I mean? Like that's what it becomes. You've got all these guys online and all of their, their offspring, for lack of a better term, right? All of their students who have never done anything in terms of real world business success. All they've done is go to a Grant Cardone, they've taken his online course, and then they've turned around and they're selling a course on coaching and consulting. They learned it, right? They went out, they read the book on it, and then they're turning around and selling what they read. It's just regurgitated, reheated with some bullshit twist. That's all it is. As you can see, this topic fires me up, man, because you guys, I fell for this. I fell for it, even though I knew these scams were out there, because it preys on your emotions. I'm sitting there waking up 3 o'clock in the morning, working my ass off for 4 or 5 hours, going to work at the casino, which I absolutely hated, getting home at 7 o'clock at night, barely seeing my family, barely sleeping, doing everything I possibly can, trying to make it, investing money into my ad spend and all this stuff, trying to get this business going. And the stuff that they were teaching was bullshit. It's such bullshit, man. Excuse my language. I know I said that a few times, but dude, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just garbage. It's garbage, man. The stuff that they teach is, you can learn everything that you need to know about marketing and sales online with a couple of audiobooks for $20, man. You go read or listen to Robert Cialdini's books on influence and persuasion, and then he has another book called Persuasion. You go listen to those books, read those books. And then, I mean, you can literally go out. There's another couple other books. I'd have to find my reading list because I can't remember the names of them right now. But like that, dude, and you know everything you need to know. I mean, really, that's it, man. And you can start a business online. There you go. Find a product, get it out there. Create a community, actually help people. Don't sell a dream. Don't sell bullshit. We don't need pictures of you on Instagram, on your private jet, because all that stuff is flash. It's crap. I could go out tomorrow and I can go literally rent a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. I can take pictures of me and my wife getting out of it, walking up the steps onto our own private jet. I can go do a wheels up flight. I can create video content off that and make myself look like I'm balling. But it's not real. Don't fall for that stuff, man. That stuff makes me so mad. It's, oh my God, because I lost years trying to do what those guys were pushing, and it was because I fell for it. I fell for it because I wanted to believe. All I was trying to do was give my family a better life. Right? That's all I was trying to do. These guys who talk about, well, you're not grinding hard enough. You don't have the right mindset. Fuck you, man. Like, that's all I have to say about that. Don't tell me that bullshit. I will put my work ethic up against anybody else on the planet, man. I will. And that's not me bragging. That's just a fact. I get up 3:30 in the morning. Up, have my coffee, go to the gym, come back, work on the computer, go run my other glass business, come back, shower, change, back on the computer working. Like, I'll put my work ethic up against anybody. Don't tell me I'm not grinding enough. That's bullshit. I just don't want to sell a BS dream to people. I actually have successful businesses. I could literally take that information, turn around and start selling courses on how to do it for thousands of dollars. I don't do that because it's wrong, man. It's just wrong when that information is out there and you can get it for pennies on the dollar. So, Ed, I know that was a very, very long answer, but that's because I really want to hammer this home. I know what it's like when you see those guys. That's why I've talked about it before. When you see those guys talking and you hear clowns like Grant Cardone say stuff like, man, if I only made $400,000 a year, I'd be ashamed. Dude, screw you. Like, man, you know what? Shut the fuck up, man. Like, that type of stuff, dude, because all that is designed to do is make you feel bad. You're somebody who's it's such a tactic on psychology. It's such a psychological tactic, man. And when you learn, because make no mistake about it. And once again, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm very good at influence and persuasion. I'm very good at communicating. I am. And if I wanted to sit there and twist people around and extract money from them, I could. I don't, because it's wrong. And when I see people doing it, it makes me mad. It makes me very angry. When you sit there and you make people feel bad about making a couple $100,000 a year, you make them feel like losers. When you do shit like that, what that does is that person starts to question where they're at, and then they want more. They want more, and it has nothing to do with what it'll actually do for them or their family. It has to do, it's all about, it plays on your ego. And make no mistake, as human beings, our ego, oh my God, it does just nightmares to us. It gets us all screwed up. And that stuff plays on your ego, and you start to feel worthless. You start to feel like a loser. And let me tell you something right now. I wasn't making $400,000 a year when I heard that stuff. I wasn't making $50,000 a year. So I really felt like a loser. And now I'm questioning I'm willing to do anything I possibly can to give my family a better life. And so I'm maxing out credit cards, I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm not seeing any success. And all that does is it makes you feel even worse, because then you buy into all their crap. Well, I have the wrong mindset. It's me. I'm the problem. I'm the issue. I can't do it. I'm working my hardest. I'm doing all the stuff that they're telling me to do, but it's not working, so it must be me. And you get into this like psychosis where you're like analyzing yourself, and dude, it's a nightmare, man. It's a nightmare. You hear stories of these people who are putting second mortgages on their home to buy these fucking courses, man. It's madness. They spend thousands of dollars to go to these, the 10X conference and all this other bullshit where all it is a bunch of people coming out giving you sales pitches. You're not getting any actual tangible skills or knowledge, and you're just being sold a bunch of crap. And you leave there broke with nothing to show for it. It's one of the biggest grifts ever. It's one of the things I hate about the internet. Ed, I know this is really long. We're going to wrap this up because like I said, I could go on this forever because it just makes me so angry, man. It makes me so angry. So Ed, stay away from that stuff, man. Stay away from it, dude. You can learn everything that you need to learn for free on how to start a business, on how to market. Dude, ChatGPT, $20 a month can teach you more than any of those guys can. Please don't spend money with them because it doesn't work, dude. It's all BS. Those guys are all selling you crap. That's what it is. And they know how to play with they know how to influence, they know how to persuade, they know how to market, they know how to sell. And the problem is that they're selling success. They're selling the dream of success. They're not actually selling you anything tangible. And unfortunately, I know this from experience because I've gone through a lot of their stuff and it doesn't work. Like I said, I didn't start succeeding until I did the opposite of what those courses taught. So yeah, and I'm sorry, you guys, that's why I said I saved this question for a day like today, because I knew I was gonna do that. I knew I was gonna rant on it, because it's just a topic that really upsets me. It does. I wish I had more time in the day, because I would literally start a YouTube channel and just for free, just teach all the stuff that I know on this stuff, because it's so unfortunate that people think they have to spend $2,500, $3,500 on a training course on how to do Amazon drop shipping, or how to be, how to break free of the matrix and become a millionaire in 30 days. It's such crap. That's all I can say is it's crap. So, yeah. Anyways, you guys, that's going to do it all for this week's episode. I know a crazy, different type of show, but anyways, we'll be back next week. Hopefully Keith will be with me. We're going to have obviously a lot to cover with the Brickyard 400, Kings Royal, and a whole lot more. So please continue to follow, download, subscribe, share, all that other good stuff. Do all that, and we will be back next week to do this all over again. So until next time, as always, take care.